Hi, this is TheHande and welcome back to another Finland stuff video. And today I'm going to be talking about Finnish sports. Now, try not to act surprised when I tell you that I myself am not a huge sports fan. But because I read the news a lot, I do get to hear what's going on in the sports world a lot. Finns are shockingly sporty, and basically if something is competed in as a professional sport, you are guaranteed that there are some Finns who are a fan of whatever sport, no matter how obscure it is. So in this video, I wanted to give a little bit of a summary of the various sports that Finns are into and why these sports in particular are so popular. This video is going to have a three-part structure because it's me and I'm very predictable. So first, I'm going to go through what I think are the three most popular team sports in Finland. Then, three of the most popular single sports. In some of these cases, they can also be competed in pairs and teams, but primarily we're focusing on single sports here. And then finally, a couple of more obscure sports that are only really popular in Finland and a small number of other countries. So, let's start with the team sports, and the three biggest team sports in Finland, rather unsurprisingly, are ice hockey, association football, aka soccer, and then rather surprisingly, Finnish baseball, aka Pesäpallo. You might be a bit shocked to hear, for instance, that basketball isn't one of the top team sports, especially because a few Finnish players have made it into the NBA. But I will say that Finland really doesn't have a lot of success in basketball, so that's why. Now, ice hockey is probably the least surprising of these three sports, why it's so popular, and people are obviously aware that a lot of Finnish players have made it into the NHL, for instance. Finland has its own three-tiered ice hockey league, which is called SM-liiga, and the long-distance champion by a pretty large margin is the Tampere-based Tappara team that has won 21 championships. Now, as for the international competition, there is a super old Finnish facts video on this channel where I mentioned that Finland won the ice hockey World Championships for the first time in 1995, and at the time of making that video, it was the only time Finland won the Ice Hockey World Championships, although they had come second and third quite a few times. Since making that video, Finland has also won the Ice Hockey World Championships in 2011, 2019, and 22. Hey, Hunter from the future here. So, of course, Finland ended up winning the Ice Hockey World Championships for a fifth time this year while I was still making this video. So, here's a little insert for it. Now, it will shock 0% of you to know that the reason Finland hasn't won the Ice Hockey Championships that many times is because Canada is a thing, you know. And also in the 1980s, the Soviet Union was also a pretty big force in the international hockey scene. Now, we'll get to soccer, but first I want to talk about Finnish baseball, or Pesäpallo. And even though this sport is based on the American version, it is a distinct sport with its own rules and quite a lot of little differences. There's a couple of really good videos on YouTube that you can see if you want to learn about the fine details of it. Also, Pesäpallo is kind of interesting because it's really popular in like middle-sized cities and tiny towns across Finland, and not so much of a metropolitan sport like ice hockey is. And there's also a pretty clear long-distance champion here. The Sotkamo-based Sotkamon Jymy has won 21 championships in the Finnish Superpesis League. And in the women's league, the all-time champion is the Jyväskylä-based Kirittäjät with 12 championships, but I need to also stress that the women's Superpesis has only been around since the 1990s. Now, because it is the most popular sport basically around the world, soccer is obviously fairly popular in Finland as well. Although, unlike Pesäpallo, this one is really more a thing in the bigger cities around Finland. And Finland, of course, also has its own three-tiered soccer league, which is called Veikkausliiga. And there is a pretty clear leader in the number of championships here as well. The Helsinki-based HJK has won the Veikkausliiga championship 17 times. Now, on the international circuit, Finland is not really a big football country. I think that's not going to come as a surprise to anybody. But what I do find interesting is that the Finnish women's football team has actually had way more success than the men's team. The men's team, which is called Huuhkajat, which means Eagle Owls, is only ranked 72nd in the FIFA ranking, while the women's team, Helmarit, which is a lead-on from the Finnish name of the boreal owl, is ranked 26th in the global ranking, Which, okay, you know, not exactly in the top 10 or anything, but that's still a pretty big gap when you compare to the men's team. Also, in the UEFA Cup, the Finnish team has never made it past the preliminary rounds, while in 2005 the women's team actually made it all the way to the semi-finals. And I think a big problem with Finnish soccer especially is the fact that while there are certainly very talented individuals in Finnish football teams, most of the other guys are usually just kind of average, and this is why these teams typically don't do very well. Some of our most successful footballers, of course, are Teemu Pukki and Jari Litmanen. Now let's move on to the three single sports categories, which are, broadly speaking, summer sports, winter sports, and motorsports. Now, summer sports in Finnish is actually called yleisurheilu, which literally means just general sports. And this is stuff like shot put, hammer throw, the high jump, etc., etc. Really kind of old-timey sports, and it's kind of difficult for me to really even highlight any specific athletes because there is such huge turnover within the different sports. Like in the 1970s, I understand Finland did very well in the high jump and the javelin, and in the 90s we did really well in the shot put, and this is why these sports will have sporadic amounts of popularity here and there, even though I feel like most of these sports are like kind of very old-fashioned and most people don't really care about them. However, for the running, I will say there is a kind of an all-time GOAT in the annals of Finnish sports history, and I have shown him off previously on this channel. This guy is the reason why running is so popular in Finland. His name is Paavo Nurmi, and he is the third most successful athlete in the Summer Olympics. Between 1920 and 1928, the guy won 9 gold medals and 3 silvers in various running events. Okay, winter sports, this one will also not surprise anybody because Finland is of course one of the few places on Earth where you get steady amounts of snow during the winter, or at least we still do. That might change in the future because of climate change. And again, there's a whole variety of different winter sports out there, so I'm going to only focus on 2 which I think are some of the most popular, though one of these I'm picking because of personal bias. Cross-country skiing, I think, is by far the sport for which Finland is the best known for. Finland holds a lot of cross-country events during the winter, both amateur and professional level, and Finland has obviously been very successful with a lot of gold medals from both Olympic and World Championship events. However, not only has Finland's overall performance in winter sports kind of dipped down in the recent decades, the image of the sport has also been very heavily damaged by various doping scandals, the biggest one being the one involving the 2001 Lahti World Championships. And this has kind of created this very unhealthy miasma relating to cross-country skiing, and its reputation has never really recovered. And also, when you look at the personal lives of a lot of cross-country skiers, you start to realize that a lot of them are just kind of genuinely terrible people. Now, ski jumping is one of the few sports that if I happen to catch on TV, I will absolutely watch, because it is such a patently ridiculous sport. A sport where you're trying to get the most air coming off a ramp and not killing yourself on the way down. Our all-time most successful ski jumper is Janne Ahonen, who has 108 medals from various ski jumping events. But our most successful Olympic ski jumper, and a bit of a meme, is Matti Nykänen. This guy even got an autobiography film made out of him. Although what I said about the cross-country skiers also kind of applies to Nykänen. He definitely didn't have the most healthiest life after his post-Olympic career. Now finally we come to a sport that I actually have some personal attachment to, and that of course is Finnish motorsports, and the 2 most successful arenas for Finnish motorsports are rallying and Formula 1. Now, a lot of Finnish drivers have also competed successfully in the Le Mans 24 hours, but that's not really a single sport, so that's why I'm not counting it. Rallying probably makes the most amount of sense, because of course it is competed in just regular road cars on dangerous gravel roads, which Finland has a lot of. And accordingly, Finland has produced 8 World Rally champions, the 2 most successful ones being Juha Kankkunen and Tomi Mäkinen, who have won 4 championships each. As for Formula 1, that's a bit of a weird, almost elite sport where, you need a special license just to drive it. But despite that, Finland has produced the most amount of world champions out of all the Nordic countries, which, none of the other Nordic countries have produced world champions. But it is notable because Sweden was competing in the sport for a lot longer, and they even used to host their own Grand Prix, whereas Finns only started in the mid-70s. The first guy to win the championship was Keke Rosberg back in 1982. Then in the late 90s, Mika Häkkinen won back-to-back championships in 1998 and 1999. And then our most recent champion, Kimi Räikkönen, was in 2007, and this is where a lot of Ferrari fans will let a long sigh of disappointment because that is also the last time Ferrari has won a world title. Okay, and now we come to the weird niche sports that Finns are really into, and the first one that I felt really compelled to talk about is floorball. Now, floorball is a surprisingly popular sport globally, but only in very select few, and sometimes I feel like really random countries. But it has really established itself in the Nordics, which is why it is also like in the Finnish school curriculum and everything. Finland has, of course, its own floorball league, F-Liiga, where the all-time long-distance champion is the Helsinki-based Viking team. But the reason why Finns go gaga for floorball, or salibändy, aka sähly, is because Finland has won the Floorball World Championships 5 times, having also come second 7 times and gotten the bronze 3 times. And the reason we're probably so motivated to do better is because, of course, the long-distance champion of the sport is our hated rivals, the Swedes. And the final sport I'm going to talk about today is Orienteering. Now, this is a kind of a weird sport that is mostly very popular in Europe, and the idea of the sport is to travel in forests and other natural locations using only a compass and map to find these various checkpoints and make it to them in the least amount of time possible. And because forests are kind of like the traditional setting where the sport takes place, this probably helps explain why Finland is one of the biggest orienteering countries, although there are also orienteering events in Middle Europe as well. Finland also just hosts a lot of these events during the summer months, with Jukolan Viesti being the biggest event of all of these, and actually a pretty big event on the international circuit overall. But yeah, it is kind of a weird sport when you start to think about it, that it's really just fighting your way through the forest. And there you go. Those are some of Finland's most popular sports. Now, I would be interested to hear, if you live in a non-Anglophone country and you're watching this, what is a sport that your country is weirdly obsessed with or just does really well in for some reason? I'm Hannu TheHande Mäkinen. See you on the next one.